Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to discuss the 7 simple steps to buying a home. I cannot tell you how often we have clients that come to our office and they have already seen 20 properties, open houses on Zillow, MLS. They're really, really excited about buying for the first time. And honestly, it's a fantastic idea to start looking around at properties, getting a feel for an area or a neighborhood, even maybe you've narrowed it down to just a few neighborhoods, which is even better when you're really ready to start going at it. But a lot of times we have clients that have already started to see properties that are really out of their budget. Okay. Or they've limited themselves to seeing a property that is really way within their means. And they can technically go a little bit higher and still be well within their means. And sometimes just increasing that sales price by 10%, right, can make a substantial difference. So it is really, really important to understand all of the steps to home buying, but most importantly, step one. And that's what we're going to get into next. All right. So hopefully you walk away with a better understanding of what the steps are to home buying and how you can really be really educated and well informed so that you don't end up in a situation that you're going to regret. And one, particularly, if you start looking at properties that are substantially more expensive than what you're going to be approved for. Maybe you've used a Zillow calculator, which, by the way, be very careful. That is a clear estimate. Okay. So a lot of times we have found that clients say, well, wait a minute, why does the Zillow calculator tell me that my payment is going to be this amount? Well, we find out that they're not including taxes. Okay. In the state of Texas, taxes are substantial. Okay. Probably more than the majority of the states in the United States, to be very honest. And our tax rate can fluctuate anywhere from as low as 2.1% in the country in the outer skirts, to as high as 3.6. We've seen it in some mud districts, which are private municipal water districts. And that is another detailed subject that we'll get into in another video. Right now, we're going to basically keep it really, really simple and just kind of take you from step one to step seven. And then on other videos, we'll kind of dive deeper into each one of those. Okay. But if you start looking for things that you think, according to these calculations, are within your budget, and come to find out that calculator did not include taxes, which is a really big portion of your full monthly payment, which we call PITI, which is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Sometimes, the insurance is not included either, by the way. And that, if they're giving you some type of low ball estimate, that can really, really vary. And that is whether it's in a flood zone or not a flood zone, or 500-year plain versus an area elevated. So those are other details we cover later. Okay. Or as I mentioned before, if you are looking for a property that is substantially less, right? Because you're being very careful and conservative, yet you don't like any of them, right? You need to know if you do qualify and if it is safe for you to go a little bit higher, maybe 10%. And you will be substantially surprised to see that by going up 10%, which could be about a $20,000 price point on some things on a $200,000 house, can make a world of difference. It really, really can. But we'll get into details on other videos. Right now, let's just go ahead and get right into it. We have 7 simple steps we're going to cover today. Step one, your loan pre approval. Okay, this is the most important step. This is when a loan originator will check your credit, your income, and your debt, okay, which is your debt to income ratio, and will determine what price range you qualify for. So, just as I mentioned before in the intro, you need to know. You need to know. Knowledge is power. So sure, go ahead, start browsing things on the internet, drive by some areas that you're definitely interested in. But before you really start going inside of these houses, because I can tell you right now, I've had situations and I don't show any client a house without a pre approval letter. Because in the past, I've made this mistake before. And I've had clients say, well, according to this mortgage calculator, I qualify. I qualify for this $350,000, $400,000 house. They loved these houses. They were completely different. It was a very different product, a much higher level, a higher line than a $200,000 house. And what ended up happening is because this client did not do the proper loan pre approval, okay, this particular client of mine was self employed. Now, many people don't understand that there is a different qualification process for someone that is an employee, okay, with an employer and they get a W 2 at the end of the year versus someone that is self employed and gets a 1099 at the end of the year. Okay. Or sometimes they don't even get a 1099 and they have to accumulate and sum their entire annual income, subtract their expenses, and report that on their tax return. Okay. So they are two totally different processes. Why? When you are W 2 income, it is what it is. That's it. They're going to use your gross income. That is what you're going to qualify with. Okay. There aren't any gray areas. There isn't anything like depreciation that they need to count back in to help you with. As opposed to self employed, there are many, many, many people out there, okay, that I have personally met and have helped purchase homes. Or we get stuck in the situation where they have found a house that they absolutely love. But guess what? The amount of income that they put on that application, okay, uh, some self-employed people, I won't mention any industries, they report, let's say, gross revenue of $100,000, just as an example, okay? Yet they write off everything under the sun. Their expenses are extraordinary, and guess what they're left with? 25,000 on their adjusted gross income. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That income is your income. Okay. So if you don't have a depreciation schedule that a loan originator is going to go through, I cannot legally provide you advice on the loan portion. I used to carry a loan originator license, and to not have any conflict of interest, I decided to do away with it. Okay. But I have been in the trenches, and let me tell you, this is very, very important. All right. Why? If you do not disclose everything and have a formal pre approval letter prior to looking at a property, and the agent that you're working with understands you qualify because you told them, I make plenty of money, right? I'm making $100,000 a year. I'm bringing in $8,000 a month. I have very little expenses. I have one car note. That's it. I don't have hardly any credit card debt. I got this. Well, guess what? If you didn't tell Uncle Sam that you make that kind of money, it doesn't count. Okay. So it's really, really important. And then we've gone under contract. Okay. I've seen agents in my office do the same thing. You go under contract, you've put up earnest money, your option fee, which again, these are details of the 7 steps. We will separate the videos later. But I want to emphasize and spend more time on this one right now because it is by far the most important one. I don't care where you are in the country, it is the same all over the country. Okay. So if you are not completely certain of how your income is going to be calculated, that is the most important time to get a pre approval. All right. So I've seen people lose their option fee, not necessarily their earnest money. You're protected for a certain period of time if your agent has placed enough time on what we call a third party financing addendum to give you time to be approved. 15 days is average, right? But I've seen people lose their inspection because while you're in your first option period, that's like 8 to 10 days. Okay. And again, we'll go through all those details later. There's so many parts to this, but I want to emphasize please don't go and submit a contract on a house without a pre approval letter. That's not necessarily for the seller to know that you're qualified, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation. This is for you. It is for you to not waste time, money, hope. Okay. So please take this very, very serious. Okay. So again, most important step is your pre-approval. Let's go to step 2. Your home search. Once the most important step is done, then that is when everybody's excited, and that is when you go look for a house. Okay. To begin, we will first need to determine where you would like to live and what you would like in your ideal home. So, as I mentioned at the intro, I have clients that they already have an idea. Okay. You've been running somewhere for a while. You're either renting in the neighborhood you want to live in, or you've been renting in a neighborhood that you know for a fact you don't want to live in. Okay. So you have an idea before you even call a realtor, right? You already are starting that process. And today's consumer is a very educated consumer. HAR, specifically here in Houston, which is our MLS system, is amazing. I mean, they've opened up several years ago now. It used to only be closed to agents, but they've opened up so much of the search platform that you can search for so many things: open houses, certain price points. You can search so many details that you're absolutely looking for in a particular home. And narrow it down. So you are provided so much information, even on some properties that are pending and sold, you can see. Okay. The mapping tools are fantastic. You can search by school district, by map. So and you can even search on Zillow. That's totally fine too. Zillow sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes just be careful. There are some that are outdated in their system. Okay, it's not really real time. I've had clients sometimes find properties they want to schedule appointments for. Come to find out, those properties sold 3 months ago. Okay, or 6 months ago is the oldest one that I found. So keep that in mind. Not all MLS systems are the same, but sometimes you can find opportunities on Zillow that are not on MLS. Okay, like independent sellers, but there's very few of those. Okay, so what is really important? Where and what? All right. So put some thought into that before you hire a realtor. That'll give you a really good idea. So it's like window shopping. Okay. You're not ready to buy, but you're trying to get an idea of what it is that you want. Okay. So that is a helpful process, but don't make any serious moves until step one is taken care of. Step three, finding the home. Once we find a home you're seriously interested in and making an offer on, together we will determine an ideal price to offer. So pre-approval is done in step one. Step two, we've narrowed down some areas. And in that process, after narrowing down what and where in step two, okay, we've at this point with your agent, you've already seen a few properties, okay, or several at that point. But before you go looking at the houses, right? You really have to have someone that's listening to everything that you want and be specific with what you want. That'll really, really help narrow this down. Don't waste your time or the agent's time just saying, yeah, doesn't quite have exactly what I want. It doesn't have the open kitchen that I want to the living space, but let's go see it anyway. Don't do that to yourself. You already know that if an open kitchen to the living room is something that you want, don't shun away from that, if you will. Make sure that you go and see the houses that you want. Don't spend time on things that you know are compartmental or have this closed off kitchen to the living room. Okay. So don't go see those and waste your time. Now, there are situations where there are photos that don't clearly show you if it is open or not. Okay. And if that's the case, well, then yeah, you need to go see it because it could be the one. Okay. But once you've narrowed it down to three, four, or five properties, there's going to be the one or two. Okay. And at that time, you tell the agent, hey, you know what? I'm ready to make an offer on one of these or both of these. You can technically submit an offer on multiple properties. However, the minute that agent and that seller, right, the agent gets back to you because the seller is willing to accept that property, all right, then you need to make sure you pull the other offer off the table on the other property. You cannot be under two executed contracts at the same time unless you have a pre approval that states you can afford both if you end up buying both of them. Okay. So in this offer, there's a lot of details, whether you're buying a condo, townhouse, or a single family property, even a country home, a ranch. There are different contracts. Third party financing addendum is when you're going to tie to that. So those are details into making an offer. We'll cover that in other videos. But for here, you want to understand that after you've narrowed it down, it's time to make the offer. Step four, Preparing the offer. On this contract, we need to include the price we are offering and any other details such as seller paid repairs. So on that offer, you put a lot of thought to it. Okay. A lot of clients, they like to start lowballing first. Make sure your agent gets enough information about that property. Check recent sales. So anytime you're hired an agent, it is their duty to represent your best interest, not to just hurry up, show the house, put it on paper and send it to make a commission. That's not how this works. Okay. You want to make sure that that contract asks for everything that you are looking to include in that offer. Sometimes the first shot is all you got. Okay. Why? If another offer is on the table, or if another offer comes in behind you and it's a lot better, all right, and beneficial to that seller, then you may not have a second opportunity. Okay. So on this one, you want to ask for everything that you want, but sometimes be careful not to ask for too much. Okay. Recently I had a client that she's a first time investor. We work with first time home buyers for homesteads, for investments, repeat clients. I mean, we have seasoned buyers, we have all kinds, but she was a first time investor and she really wanted to lowball. And it wasn't the right property for that. It was not a distressed property. Okay. Be careful with how you offer. If it is a property that you really, really want, and you will be completely disappointed if you lose this property, then tread carefully. Okay. It doesn't always mean you have to offer full price. The market has shifted. It's really a buyer's market at the moment because of the high rates. But be careful, because if you're offering, more than 10%, that's a huge chunk that seller's losing. Okay. So just make sure your agent does their due diligence. Okay. And yes, if there's any repairs that the property needs, I definitely ask for home warranty, little things like that. Definitely they're subtle. But of course, that is a conversation between you and your agent. And you just really want to make sure that your offer represents what you need and want, but at the same time, be careful with how much you're asking for. Okay. Because some sellers won't even counter you if it's too low. Okay. You don't have anything to lose usually by offering a little bit less. Okay. But if there is another offer that comes or on the table, be prepared to lose. Okay. So that's step 4. Be careful on how the offer is prepared. Step 5, awaiting the seller's response. So after that offer is submitted, whatever's in it, this step can be very, very exciting, or it can be nerve wracking. Okay. If it's too low, the seller may say, you know what? Sorry, I'm not even going to bother to counter. The seller may either accept your offer or reject it with a counter offer, or they may not even counter. Okay. So remember that if you're giving them full price, expect an acceptance, obviously. I would never offer full price at first. Unless you're in a multiple offer situation. Okay. Ask for something. You got to. And then even after that seller has accepted your offer, you'll have an option period in which you're paying for like 8 to 10 days to go do your inspection. And of course, if there's issues with that property and you didn't notice the repairs that were needed in step 4 on the initial offer, in step 5, okay, after you get a response and go under contract, moving on to the next step, that you still have time to negotiate more for repairs and things that are discovered in the home. But you don't have to offer full price. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is try not to offend that seller, because if this home, there's a lot of emotional attachment to residential real estate. Okay. If this property has been a home for someone for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you can be offensive if you're offering too little. So that could be the reason for the behavior of the seller, okay, and their response. So just keep that in mind. But it can be very exciting, okay? And like I said, nerve wracking at the same time. Moving to step 6, acceptance of an offer. This is the moment everybody's waiting for, okay? The seller accepts the offer. We deliver the earnest money to the title company, and we move forward to inspection, appraisal, and the closing. Okay. So these are the next steps that follow After shopping for the home, after submitting the offer, waiting for the answer, now you have what is called an executed contract. That is where the timeline begins for everything. Okay. So there'll be deadlines for a few things. There'll be deadlines for your option period, which starts the day after the acceptance. Okay. So if it's 8 days, you count out 8 days starting for the following day. It ends at 5 p.m. on that eighth day. All right. Never wait till last minute. Please do not wait till last minute. Do your inspections early. Get them done early so you have plenty of time to negotiate these things. Okay. Because sometimes that inspector will find, you may want to have the foundation looked at, right? Or you may want to have this roof looked at by a roofer. I'm seeing some things that don't look good. So allow yourself enough time during that option period to do those things. Okay. Now, the next thing is the appraisal. So the appraisal is not to be ordered until after your option period has concluded, because that option period, you're buying those days. Okay. You're preparing one check for earnest money. The second check is your option fee. Okay. We just didn't put that in here because it's an optional deal. You can either do it or not. So your earnest money is the deposit. You're showing earnest, okay? You are earnest. So you are serious about buying this property. That is a deposit, okay? You don't lose that unless you back out and default towards the very end. All right? That's always applied to your down payment. Now, the second check is your option fee. All right. Now that is buying 8 days, 10 days, 15 days, whatever you negotiate to give you enough time to do your inspections. However, the option period is also an option for you to back out for whatever reason. Okay. It doesn't have to be a set reason. You can back out during those 8 to 10, 15 days. If you back out during that period, you don't lose your earnest money. You get that back, but you do lose that option fee that you paid, which on average can be around $10 a day. Okay. So between $150, $200, depending on the days you've requested. Okay. So after that option period, which is your inspection period, you go on to an appraisal. The only person that orders that appraisal is the lender. You will pay your lender. The appraiser will be dispatched out. It could be 8 days, 10 days, 15 days. Okay. So as soon as you're done with your option period, green light, everything's good to go, you move on to your appraisal. Notify your lender immediately because that can take 2 to 3 weeks. And let me tell you, I've seen this cause a lot of problems with our closing dates. Okay. And that can delay your closing date, and the seller's not happy. No one's happy, causes date issues for everyone. So time is always of the essence, and that is always written in your contract. Okay. So now after this, you move on to closing. Once the inspection's good, appraisal's good, survey's done. A lot of times homeowners have a survey they provide you a copy of, but sometimes you have to order another one. Okay. Step 7, closing. Once you are approved by underwriting and all documents are sent to the title company, a date and time is confirmed for both parties to come in and sign. Okay. Once the title company receives the funds from the lender, it is considered closed and funded. Buyer can get the keys and enjoy their new home. So it's really as simple as that, but the steps along the way are different for everyone. And so to make this an easy process, following these 7 steps and getting your pre-approval done at the beginning is really, really important. Okay. Not all lenders are created equal either. So shop around, talk to a few banks. But other than that, it's just as easy as that. I hope you have learned something today. And if there's any questions, always feel free to message us, like and subscribe this video. And we hope to bring you more value on the next one. Thank you. Bye.